was trying on wedding dresses, and my fiancé wasn't there. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. I put it on speaker, and Mark spoke softly. Nora, something's come up on my end. I looked at my beautiful reflection in the mirror, twirling with the hem of my white dress in hand. The man's predatory gaze reflected behind me. I smirked at him. I feigned disappointment on the phone. You're so busy you can't make it to the dress fitting. The call ended, and a warm body immediately pressed against mine from behind. A deep voice asked, still not cancelling the wedding? Why should I? Marrying you isn't a loss. Mark and I practically grew up together. 6 months away from our wedding, he started acting weird. He thought he was hiding it well, but I knew all along. It started when he'd come home with a faint scent of orange blossoms. Then I found him in the study, writing notes full of basic information late into the night. On afternoons when we watched movies, he'd unconsciously smile at his phone. As soon as I came close, his body would stiffen. I've always believed that if you start suspecting something, it's probably true. Our years together weren't a lie. I chose to believe I was just stressed from the approaching wedding. Until the end of the month, when I decided on a whim to bring him lunch. Near noon, the lab was still bustling as I spotted Mark among a sea of white lab coats. He was looking through a microscope, then gently nudged the person next to him, who immediately leaned in, looking delighted. Mark's gaze was soft and full of warmth towards the other's profile. At that moment, I understood everything. What confirmed it was that evening when I had cramps. The usually meticulous Mark went out of his way to make me brown sugar water. Watching his busy back, my heart ached. I wasn't angry. Instead, I started pulling back my temper, acting as the perfect fiancé. I neurotically discussed meals with him, and eagerly decorated the new house, almost torturing myself planning the honeymoon. He always responded with a gentle smile, everything's great, everything's fine. With 3 months until our wedding, I could feel Mark growing more anxious. Waking in the middle of the night, I'd see the flicker of his cigarette on the balcony. I'd pretend to rub my eyes, open the door, and innocently ask, what's up? He'd quickly stub out the cigarette, want to say something, but just pull me inside, explaining, nothing, it's just a problem with an experiment. I'd console him, saying not to overwork and promise to make him soup in the morning. The next day, he'd leave for the lab early and come back smelling strongly of orange blossoms. It was so obvious. After all these years together, we knew each other too well. He was fully aware that my pride wouldn't let me marry a man who'd lost interest. His clumsy cover-up was just a ploy for me to discover his disinterest, react dramatically, and call off the wedding. Ours was a match his family sought after. Everyone knew we were an item. The shame of a broken promise was unbearable for him and his family. But he miscalculated. When he decided to abandon our years together, he gave me the upper hand, thinking I'd call off the wedding to set him free. Not a chance. Me, Nora, I'm not someone who's easily pushed around. I watched them dance like clowns, let them scurry like rats. With just a month and 23 days to go, the orange blossom scent became stronger when Mark came home. I couldn't help but smile. Someone was getting anxious. The night of the dress fitting, I was stood up. The next day, arriving at an agreed spot, I saw Mark with that junior of his. Mark saw me sit down, protectively shielding the other person. There was a hint of guilt in his eyes, quickly replaced by resolve. Nora, I'm sorry. I always saw you as a sister. Meeting Selena showed me what real love is. Our engagement, it was a decision made by our parents, back when we were young and naive. I looked at Mark closely. Memories flashed of him guarding me with such intensity, anxious over my frowns. He chalked up our past to youthful indiscretion. I couldn't help but smirk. That was all history. Anything belonging to the past should be tossed like trash, along with Mark. I'm all about moving forward. Fine. My quick agreement stunned both of them. Selena, trying to sound confident, said, Nora, I know this is hard, but we really didn't mean to hurt you. Mark and I love each other. Finally, I met this junior face to face. No glass of the lab, no phone screen between us. Her face was pale with light makeup, eyes bright, and she carried herself as a winner, trying to console me. My gaze met hers, and she grew uneasy, sipping her coffee. I smirked, stirring my own coffee lazily. The cheap brew had a slight sourness. I clicked my tongue in dissatisfaction. Couldn't drink this. Placing down the spoon, I looked at Mark. Shall we head back to the villa? Ignoring Selena made her eyes well with tears. Nora, holding Mark back isn't good for you either. Why keep him? Now there's a way to make a point. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the table. I picked it up. Henry, pick a wedding dress you like. Everything'll be ready for our wedding next month. Henry typed each word thoughtfully. Imagining the usually decisive Henry carefully typing this for his soon-to-be fiancé made me smile. Feeling better, I softened my tone with Selena. Miss, you've got it wrong. As long as you can convince Mark's parents to annul the engagement, I've got no problem. Their faces shifted. I'm Selena. I scanned the photos again, casually apologizing. Oh my, memory slip. Sorry about that, Miss Selena. Mark finally couldn't hold back. Nora, I owe you an apology. Let's go back to the family home tonight. He wanted me there because he was too afraid to do it alone. His mom is definitely no easy character to deal with, and Mark's got a ton of illegitimate siblings, all waiting for their chance. Plus, Mark majored in chemistry, which is utterly useless when it comes to running a company. I've been the one supporting him, so he could pursue what he loves. Does Mark think I'm so head over heels for him that I'll keep helping after we break our engagement? Mark, did Selena come back with you guys? Selena, I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow, and Mark looked just as shocked. His dad's away on business, and it's like his mom doesn't see me. She heads straight for Selena, grabbing her hand and sitting on the couch all chummy. I, the legitimate fiancé, am left out on the side. Selena looks all shy, biting her lip, with a red blush covering her face. Mark's mom suddenly turns to me. Nora, you haven't met Selena yet, right? She goes on about how Selena's from Mark's lab, comes from a tough background, but is hardworking, obedient, and highly educated, helping him in the lab now. While praising Selena, she's patting her hand, smiling with squinted eyes. I graduated college, not highly educated, never helped Mark with his experiments or followed their requests. When I was 16, my dad passed away from overwork. At 21, my mom followed. Mark's parents have repeatedly suggested they temporarily manage Legion Company since I was so young. After college, I joined the company right away. I never had any scheming uncles. I have family who will always have my back, seriously helping me out. In just 3 short years, I've gone from being a newbie to handling things on my own, but Mark's parents never let go of this topic. I look at the side of Mark's mom's face, recalling how she'd cradle and soothe me, saying, Nora, be good, when I was younger. Trying to use Selena against me. Being too greedy gets you nothing. My phone vibrated in my coat pocket. Henry, where are you? Mark asks his mom how she knows Selena. She laughs, suggesting Selena be our bridesmaid. None of that matters now. I reply, at Mark's place. Then I turn off the phone and put it back in my pocket. Auntie, we're here to discuss breaking off the engagement with Mark. Mark's mom's smile instantly freezes, subtly moving her hand away from Selena's. Nora, marriage is no joke. What's Mark done wrong? I'll make it right for you. She sits beside me, trying to take my hand, but I can't help but curl my lips in mockery. Auntie, Mark likes the educated and obedient Selena you speak of, and you like her too. Isn't that a happy ending for all? My phone buzzes again, sending tingling vibrations through my pocket and creeping into my heart. Nora, you misunderstand. They're just lab mates, she insists. Selena bites her lip harder, eyes red and looking at Mark. Mark can't hold back. Mom, I really love Selena. Mark's mom stands up, looking at him. I've seen women like this before. Mark, go apologize to Nora. She's your girlfriend and future fiancé. Selena gets up, silent and teary-eyed, holding Mark's hand. Mark frowns. Mom, don't say that. I'm going to marry her, and besides, Nora and I were never really together. We both agreed to end the engagement. 24 years summed up that we weren't even real boyfriend-girlfriend. What a jerk. Mark's mom, flushed with anger, interrupts. She's just climbing high through tricks. Mark, apologize to Nora. Turns out, Mark's mom can see through Selena's act. Mark is just that clueless. I suddenly feel disinterested, pulling my phone out again. From Henry. 3 unread messages. Are you regretting marrying me? Let me tell you, Nora, no turning back. I'm on my way. I carefully type out no, but haven't sent it yet. The phone buzzes again. Come out. I'm at the door. I start walking out, their arguing fading behind me as I keep moving forward without looking back. Henry's waiting outside. Tall and lean, Henry leans casually on the car parked boldly in front of the old house. It's just so audacious. As soon as he sees me, he strides forward, and I'm engulfed in his sandalwood scent. He looks at me, his eyelashes casting a pretty shadow on his lower eyelid, with drooping corners like a puppy left behind. He tentatively hooks my pinky, waving it lightly. I can't help but glance at him sideways. He speaks with a cheeky tone. What's up, Nora? Having second thoughts. The feelings I've been bottling up since seeing Mark break open slightly because of him. I suddenly tease him. What if I am? The first time I met Henry was in a supermarket, picking tomatoes for a meal I was planning for Mark. I turned around, and there he was, picking the same tiny, squished tomatoes that were only good enough for Mark, but not for him. Eventually, we often shopped together, his gaze growing more affectionate, probably impressed by my grocery skill. Then, He ended up escorting me to the bridal store, and snap, the one I shopped with became the one I was marrying. I always thought he just wanted me for my shopping skills. Looking at his smile, he wagged our pinky even more, raising his eyes just a bit and looking at me like a pitiful pup. Well, what can I do but wait every chilly morning outside your door, since you don't pity me? Where'd you learn that from? I tapped his head with my fingers, teasing, because I'm good at picking groceries. What? His brows furrowed briefly. I tapped him again. Let's go. Where to? Taking pity on you, taking you to my place. To my place, where adults know exactly where this is going. He never holds back his emotions in front of me. He got a bit antsy, and was in a rush to drive back to my apartment. The emotions I was holding in burst out, and I let out a small laugh. In such a hurry. I sent Henry the location, an old neighborhood that's been getting pricey. He raised an eyebrow, unapologetically turning the car around. When did you buy it? Not on the way, though. I didn't say anything, just looked at him and smiled. He drove really fast. Watching him grit his teeth made me laugh even more. My phone wouldn't stop ringing midway through. Mark's mom was calling. I was so irritated, but picked up out of politeness. Nora, listen, don't take anything Mark said to heart. The wedding will go on as planned. I obviously didn't take Mark's words to heart. The wedding was supposed to happen anyway. I couldn't help but smirk. The wedding is happening, auntie. It seemed like she paused on the other end, not expecting me to be so agreeable. Mark's mom praised me over and over. Good girl, good girl. I quickly hung up and laughed out loud. Just when Henry said urgently, we're here. The car stopped smoothly at the door, and I laughed so hard I held my stomach going out. The security guard recognized me instantly, even though it's been 2 years. Nora, right, you're getting prettier. My wife pickled some cucumbers. Take a jar with you tomorrow. I laughed till I teared up. Uncle, you're looking younger. I'll pick them up tomorrow, but don't hide them this time. I grew up here. Dad loved playing chess with Uncle Jack after work. His crisp suit did him no good. He lost every time, stubborn yet loved playing. Mom always sent me to fetch Dad home. Every time, I managed to snatch candy. Mom forbade me with my innocent looks. Eventually, my cavities gave me away. The next time I went there, Uncle's wife was fidgeting, while Uncle awkwardly said, Nora, we're out of candy. They lied. I saw my candy jar in the corner. I stayed mad at them for 3 whole months. Looking back now, I can't help but laugh at my ridiculous self. Henry pulled me along, laughing so much I couldn't talk straight. So dumb. Does Mark's mom really think I'd marry her son? How was I such a fool back then? Even my dad was silly, losing every chess game. Tears of laughter ran down my cheeks. Finally, Henry stopped us in front of a house, guided by the GPS. My grin was unstoppable as Henry entered the code, holding my hand. Once inside, he sat me down on the couch. Leaning over, his gaze was intense. Stop laughing. You look ridiculous. He gently wiped my tears with his finger. I stopped laughing, but inside, I felt even more unsettled. A mess of emotions threatened to consume me. His warm fingers lingered on my face. Things suddenly felt intimate. He looked right at me, his warm breath brushing my face. Nora, do you know why we came back? His finger traced my face. I met his gaze, of course. Saying that, I leaned in and kissed his plain lips. The chaos inside finally had an outlet. He chuckled softly, his chest vibrating, setting the mood for himself. At first, I struggled to keep up. Eventually, I let go, letting him lead. Leaning on his shoulder, out of breath, my mind spun. My feelings were mixed up with desire. His hand slipped under my shirt, touching my back, making me shiver. Marrying him, I'm not losing out. We should at least get love or money, right? I relaxed, and he gave my back a firm rub. What kind of quirk was that? As if he could rub off dust. Before I could think more, he withdrew his hand and stood up, clenching his teeth. Got any wine? Right turn from the second floor, left side, my dad's collection. He quickly came back with a bunch, opened a bottle just like that, and poured it straight into a glass. He slid the glass to me. Drink. You've been laughing since we left there as if you'd cry otherwise. Whatever's bugging you, don't hold it in. You don't have to talk to me. Pour it into the wine. My dress was off, and you want to talk feelings. Over my dead body would I drink? I blacked out. Waking up next to Henry, I hurriedly checked my wrinkled dress from yesterday. Henry was out like a light. I kicked him hard. You didn't change my clothes. What kind of CEO are you? He had dark circles under his eyes. Remember, Miss Nora, you held onto a pan after getting drunk, smashed bottles, and wouldn't let go of my clothes. Truly, I blacked out. If I can't remember, it didn't happen. Eventually, I found myself holding a pickle jar in his flashy Maybach, the car filled with the tang of pickles. Back at the apartment, my phone finally powered up. The messages flooded in. I can't believe you agreed to the wedding. Mark's been with me for ages. Don't listen to them. Auntie's only got you as her daughter-in-law. Nora, I'm sorry. I know you already know about Selena and me. If you want the wedding, go ahead. I hope you can move on from me soon. Forcing myself to read them all, I was fuming. Just Mark. They act like he's a gem. I'm not interested. What I do care about is the auction 2 weeks from now. That's the real treasure. Henry, hey, venue for the wedding. Me? Aren't those wedding halls you need to book a year in advance? Henry, throw money at it till it opens. Me, got it. Truth be told, it's crashing someone else's wedding venue. Not only a hassle, but also uncouth. We'd need to chat with hotel staff, and even have to butter up the couples originally booked. I didn't care. Henry's thick-skinned enough. The hotel was booked by the next day, his money, in my name. It caused quite a stir. Everyone knew I'd spend a fortune for love. Mark's mom called me for the first time ever. Nora, good girl. I knew you truly care for Mark. Rest assured, only you are our daughter-in-law. After Mark's mom got off the phone, Mark called, sounding all lovey-dovey. Nora, I'm in the company now. I never imagined it was so tough for you before. I was busy preparing for a bid, my fingers racing across the keyboard, too distracted to really listen to him. Then came a heavy sigh from the other end. Nora, I know about the wedding hotel. Let's consider it a keepsake and move on from me sooner. I was speechless. I'm preparing for the bid. There was a moment of calm from the other side. Nora, you don't need to help us anymore. I'll be handling this bid myself. I was even more speechless. I was helping you before, but this time, you're not getting anything from me. Do it yourself. You'll be played by those old-timers till there's nothing left of you. 2 weeks flew by. During this time, my phone was buzzing non-stop with messages from Henry, and the wedding was already taking shape. When I saw Henry at the entrance of the bid hotel, I froze. He personally took care of everything for the wedding, and he still had the energy to show up for the bid. Is Henry interested in this bid? Henry stood at the door, smiling slightly at me, leaned in, and whispered, nope. Just here to see my charming fiancé blow them all away. My goosebumps were just getting started when Mark's voice interrupted. Nora, why are you here? Selena was actually there beside Mark, timidly greeting me. Hi, Miss Nora. She kept it cool. I gave Selena an extra look. Mark seemed eager to prove something. Nora, no need for your help this time. I can do it myself. I stayed silent, and Henry's cool voice interrupted us. Calling her Nora makes it sound like you two are close. Mr. Mark, it's more proper to say Miss Nora. Mark had just joined the company, but seemed clueless about the local business leaders. He looked confused and innocent, asking, and you are? Nora, let's go. Henry grabbed my wrist and led me inside, finding a spot in the center to sit down. I soothed him saying, don't make a fuss. Henry obediently let go of my hand, and I told him, I've been preparing for this bid for 6 months. Even if you're a bossy CEO, don't meddle and raise the price. I looked around and nodded to a few familiar faces. The bidding started soon. It was for land near the bay, an old town area that's been up for development due to recent policies. The landowner knew it was too much to handle, so they divided it into 14 parts. This bid had been prepared for 6 months. The first 9 plots went for around 1.5 billion each. These were near the city, good for international trade supermarkets, and Mark snagged 2. What got me excited were those 2 plots by the sea, 11,908 and 12,890 square meters respectively, near thriving ports. Those were the real deals. I placed a bid of 5 billion. My hands trembled slightly. 50 billion. I doubled the last bid, silencing the room. Nobody made a move to raise it. That's my style. If I make a move, I make sure to win. This plot was worth it. Then someone countered, 55 billion. I immediately raised my hand, 70 billion. That stirred the room. Charles, who knew me well, gave me a nod. Miss Nora is truly daring. Everyone knew this plot would bring big returns. Someone increased, 71 billion. As soon as he finished, I raised my hand, 80 billion. I turned to Charles. Us young folks, we're just a bit impulsive. Got it. Henry's gaze was so intense it felt like it had turned me to toast. He seemed to particularly enjoy watching me claim things. I breathed a sigh of relief, knowing the challenger let me have it. It wasn't break time yet. I ignored Henry's stare and straightened my back on purpose. 1 more plot left. I estimated about 180 billion for both. If the next plot goes over 100 billion, I'll need other strategies. 50 billion. I glanced at the bidder. A small company, not easy. Mark called out, 60 billion. Does your family want a piece of this? Dream on. I looked at Mark, who was leaning over talking to someone, even from afar. I could see the struggle in his eyes. Mark is ambitious, loving high risk and return, but is also easily influenced. His mom opposed him studying chemistry, but his dad supported it, hoping the experiments would build his character. Mark often told me his father didn't want him in the company. So now that he's in, he's desperate to achieve something. Those last 2 plots went to his head. He's bound to want this juicy plot too, to prove himself further. I examined the unfamiliar person Mark was talking to, who seemed to be the head of a company I didn't know. Mark has high standards, and considering he'd just scored 2 plots, he had no business with small companies. Then it hit me, 2 plots. Plus, greedy enough to want this one, he must be borrowing. Family funds couldn't all go into Mark's bids. He likely spent a lot already. He must be borrowing. Fool. I raised my card. 70 billion. Mark looked at me, eyes clouded. Couldn't read his emotions, and I had no interest in guessing his thoughts. Charles joked, "Can't let Miss Nora get away with this one." Laughed. 100 billion. I eyed Charles, then texted Mark. "As your fiancé, lending you 50 billion, no interest. If you're torn, let me help. The path you choose, it's not on me." Henry chuckled softly beside me. I turned to look at him, ready to remind him not to mess around. But before I could say anything, he flashed a smile. Henry took my hand, gently swinging our pinkies together. It had already hit 10 billion. Going any higher would exceed my target price. I touched the paddle, thinking, what if Charles was also aiming for 10 billion? I nudged Henry with my hand, and he raised the paddle. 10 billion and 1. I couldn't help but chuckle. Testing his limits was exactly what Henry was doing. Why would a guy in new media like me compete with Charles for this land? But then Charles raised his paddle. 11 billion. There was a soft gasp from the crowd. Yeah, it was already overpriced. Only someone in the fishing and shipping business like Charles could pay this much. Getting the land guaranteed a return, but it involved renovation and port design. Companies gonna have to hold out for the payoff. My phone was silent, but I guessed the time and checked. Sure enough, Mark messaged, "Nora, thank you. I won't let you down." Out of nowhere, Mark's voice rang out. 12 billion. I laughed. Does he really think I'm head over heels for him? I'm not even your fiancé anymore, and you dare to borrow. Henry squeezed my hand and let out a short laugh. I glanced at him, and he squeezed my hand again. Charles's smile faded as he looked at Mark. "Mr. Mark." Feeling a bit awkward, Mark replied, "Yeah." In the end, Mark snagged the land, and as the bidding wrapped up, Charles approached Mark and me, really teaming up. "Huh, you gotta come to me for the ships." Mark blushed. Of course, of course." Charles slapped his shoulder. "All right, let's sign the contract this afternoon. Don't even think about running." This half-joking, half-serious remark left Mark stunned in place. I couldn't hold back my laughter. "Borrowed 50 billion from me, and your family stands to lose half the profit on this project if you agree to Charles' contract." Charles, drawn by my laughter, added, "And you, Miss Nora, don't you run, too." I'd be dumb not to run. So I smiled and said, "Nope. I just need to rush to the restroom." 10 minutes later, exiting the restroom, I spotted Henry leaning against the wall by the door, flicking a cigarette in his hand. "What? Still having doubts, Henry?" Before I could finish, he cut in. "I'm jealous. I'm hurt." Henry put out his cigarette and tossed it into the restroom's trash. He then rested his head on my shoulder. Tobacco, and his woodsy scent mingling in the air, made me woozy. "Get up, say it straight." Henry actually straightened up, and, reporting like it was work, said, "I feel bad. I'm jealous." He swung our pinkies again, looking pitiful. Today's bidding was truly satisfying. I gazed at his handsome face and laughed. "So what now, fiancé?" Sure enough, I hit the right spot. With a fish out of water look, he turned his head, showing flushed ears, his pinky swinging stronger. "Wants a smooch." Kissing at the restroom door, what a habit. I gently pulled his neck down, stood on tiptoe, and kissed his lips. Consider it Henry's reward for raising the paddle. After the kiss, still a bit dazed, I asked, "Why'd you laugh when Mark upped the bid?" "He borrowed 20 billion from a small company I own." I was laughing so hard against Henry when, behind me, a startled voice said, "Nora." I turned to see Mark. Who was he to me? My fiancé. Through gritted teeth, Mark said, "Nora, you can't just marry anyone because we're no longer engaged." Henry's grip on my pinky tightened momentarily, so I filled his whole hand with mine. "Henry and I are the real deal. Our engagement has nothing to do with it. It was just our parents' decision when we were clueless." Turning his words back to him, he wasn't as nonchalant as me. He looked at our linked hands, his voice trembling. "Nora, what do you mean? After all these years, you'd let it go just like that?" I smiled at Mark. He seemed unable to accept it, staring at me with clenched teeth, veins bulging on his neck. What's this? Can't take it just because we're holding hands. Did he consider what I'd do post-breakup when he cheated? Did he think of our 2 decades together when flirting with others? Can't handle Henry and me holding hands. I don't need him claiming it's for my own good to threaten me. I don't need him acting all tender after ditching me, pretending he's oh so loving. He rushed up, sounding concerned. Do you think this playboy loves you? Just after your money, using you? Henry nearly raised a hand, but I was quick to press his arm down. I handle my business myself. What about the Selena by your side? His body immediately froze, like I hit a weak spot. Figures, she in it for the cash too. He stood silently, so I pulled Henry away. Enjoy your true love. Don't be pathetic here. Sure enough, Selena was after his money. 24 days from the wedding, Mark's mom gave her money, and Selena fled, claiming she couldn't handle the pressure. How do I know? I bought her the ticket. 14 days till the wedding, Mark's dad returned. The company scored 3 plots of land, 1 golden. The talk was all about Mark's prowess, even reaching my ears. That day, Mark's dad called. Nora, the wedding's soon. Let's discuss the details. No mention of the bidding, Mark's cheating, or Selena. First thing, the wedding. On the phone, with a typical authoritative tone, he continued. This wedding was decided by both families, not to be called off lightly. Lounging on my sofa, watching Henry wash strawberries, shoulders broad and legs long. Uncle, no need to discuss. I got the wedding prep nearly done. Silence, thinking I was backing down. Then came a low voice. Fine, send over your plan. This was Mark's slip-up. As our daughter-in-law, be generous. Henry came out and placed a plate of strawberries on the table. He'd been keeping an eye on me, thinking it was Mark on the phone. Then with the softest voice possible, he asked, Nora, who are you talking to? As he asked, he popped a strawberry into my mouth. I shot Henry a look. The call paused for a moment, but didn't hang up. Mark got distracted by someone else. Just like you got caught up in something new. It happens, but in the end, we're family. Henry added another strawberry. I didn't respond immediately. On the other end, they knew they were wrong and started to soften their tone. Mark realizes his mistake. He just got a bit too close to a classmate. After so many years, women should be more forgiving. That's how marriage works. Chewing the strawberry, I suddenly remembered when our families lived in that old house area. Mark's dad watched his mom with such affection, but now, they have more illegitimate children than you can count on one hand. I said, you're really forgiving, auntie. But why should they ask me, Nora, to forgive and let go? What gives them that right? No way. I'm sending you an invitation. Make sure you come on time. The wedding is in 3 days. Invitations have gone out. Red envelopes with gold edges, with the names Nora and Henry written in elegant script. Everyone, whether close or not, is talking about it. I made sure to send 3 to Mark's house. That night, Henry was giddy like a kid, holding on to the invitation tight. I always thought Henry was out of his mind for liking me just because I happened to know how to pick good produce. The night the invitations went out, Mark knocked on my apartment door in the middle of the night. Henry sleepily came from the guest room, holding me and refusing to let me leave. I texted Mark to get lost. The next morning, I opened the door to find Mark sitting there. Nora, what's going on? You're really marrying him? I looked at the bruises under his eyes. He hasn't been doing well. That land is under construction. I went to check it that very day. The Chen family board finally realized it's not just me involved. There's another unknown little company, too. And the funniest thing, Mark actually signed a deal with Charles. Before there's even a place built, he bought 200 of their ships. Always so arrogant. Some business people finally gave him a hard time. I laughed at him. Yeah, he rubbed his eyebrows. Nora, I can overlook what happened before. Didn't you always want to marry me? There's still time. My grip on the door tightened. So, he did know everything. Flashes of being 16, offering him candy like it was nothing. 17. The watch I went through so much to send him, and when I realized his cheating, the sleepless nights, doubting myself, meals that I cooked that felt like feeding them to the dogs. Back then, I had hopes for this person. I looked at him, trying to reconnect him with the Mark of then. When I was 16, after my dad passed, he bought my favorite cake from across town and placed it in my hands after a long day dealing with the funeral. That cake, one that made me sick to my stomach, had bound me for 8 whole years. I was so naive. Nora, I know you always knew about the affair. I misjudged this time, but let's call it even. Even, letting go of the doorknob, my emotions erupted as I slapped him hard. Even, you think I'm something you can just summon and dismiss. The sting in my palm lingered. He stood there speechless. I slapped him again, harder. My palm was burning. I looked at him. What do you even count for? You dared to be so arrogant before, only because you felt safe in my affection. He clutched his face, None of that usual gentlemanly charm. Nora, this marriage was set by our parents. Whether you like it or not, you have to go through with it. Unless you don't care about the gossip about your parents in their graves. The bidding setup was your doing, wasn't it? My dad was right. I should never yield to you. I remembered my mother's weak grip before she passed. Mark's a good boy, Nora. Don't cry. Mom will make you something good tomorrow. I have to see you two together. Slamming the door, I turned to see Henry in the living room, holding a glass, looking calm. Come on, Nora, let's eat. He didn't ask, and I didn't explain. I sat down and carefully sipped some milk. Coconut milk. Tears began to well up. Henry finally couldn't hold back. Nora, what did Mark want? Even Mark forgot I'm lactose intolerant. Tears gathered and became huge drops. I tried holding them back, keeping my eyes wide so they wouldn't fall. But they did, dropping onto the table. Henry panicked. I don't want to hear it. I leave it all to you. Don't cry. Through blurry tears, I gazed at him. Don't you leave me. I'm going to cry. I put in so much effort. Tears and a smile tugged at my face. Henry, I'm so glad I'm marrying you. The night before the wedding, Henry was all over the place, personally checking everything. His parents arrived on a flight that night. His mom in a smart suit, raising her hand when she saw Henry. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Yesterday, your dad and I were spooked by the invitation. Maybe the wedding was too smooth. I'd actually forgotten about Henry's parents. I started to speak, but Henry hugged his mom, blocking her hands like flowing water. Mom, getting married tomorrow. I don't want to let you go. I'm so nervous. Nora's not even nervous. What are you worried about? She waved him off, strict-faced. Don't act like this in public. Where's your CEO charm? Henry's mom pushed him aside and headed straight for me. Miss Nora, I know about you. Last year, you snagged a project from our family. Henry wouldn't stop talking about it. You're as good as they say. I thought about it and realized, yeah, that did happen. But it's a shame. I helped Mark snag that project. Otherwise, I could have kept working with Henry. Just as I was about to apologize, Henry's mom cut me off. Nora, you don't mind me calling you that, do you? You did a great job. Someone needs to keep this rascal in check. We were standing at the door. She didn't fake any close affection by holding my hand. We stood at the distance of strangers meeting for the first time. She earnestly praised me, saying I did well. Maybe I've gotten too emotional from Henry's pampering, because my nose started to tingle, and I almost teared up. Thankfully, Henry's dad called out from behind. Come inside. What's everyone doing standing outside? I turned around quickly, blinking back the tears in my eyes. On the morning of the wedding at 4 a.m., the makeup artist was already getting prepared. Henry's mom sat stubbornly next to me, watching the makeup artist work on my face. At 5 a.m., Henry's assistant came over and whispered a few words to Henry's mom before leaving. She kept her eyes on me. At 7 a.m., when it was time for the veil, Henry's mom stopped the makeup artist and stood up to hold the wedding dress. But she didn't rush to put it on me. She turned to grab a comb nearby, and I felt a chill. I looked up at her. Nora, I'm gonna wait for you over there with that rascal until you call me mom. At 7:30, the first headline I saw on my phone was Nora disregards parents' wishes, leaves fiancé for someone better, and there were thousands of comments below. I always knew she was that kind of person. Otherwise, how could she manage such a big company by herself? Seeing that headline, my first thought wasn't how to fix it, but where's Henry? Have his parents seen it? I quickly contacted my assistant. When they picked up, they said, Nora, don't worry about this. Enjoy your day. Let Charlie and me handle it. Wait, who's Charlie? Oh, Henry's assistant. When did Henry find out about this? He knew from the start. We're talking with PR right now. Don't stress over this nonsense. We're trying to reach Miss Selena. That guy Mark cheated, and yet he has the nerve to play the victim. I didn't say anything else, and they hung up. By 7:45, the sound of fireworks was already outside. I quickly sent a video to my assistant. It was a clarification video I asked Selena to record before she left. It cost me $2 million. After sending it, I put my phone away and sat up straight. The fireworks outside felt like they were echoing in my heart. At 8 a.m., there was a commotion at the door. The groom is here. This is the person I'd be spending my life with, or even if we got divorced, I'd still get money. At 8:15, the door opened. Through the white veil, I could make out Henry's face. He said, Nora, I'm here to take you home. Laying on his back, I suddenly remembered Henry's mom saying she'd wait for me over there. They are really good people. Maybe I finally got lucky and found a treasure. The wedding went on as planned. From the corner of my eye, I noticed the embarrassed faces of Mark's family. In that video, there wasn't just Selena's statement, but also photos of Mark cheating and audio of Mark's dad threatening me. Mark's company was already having cash flow issues because of some land, and now, coupled with a stock market crash, they are in deep trouble. Uncle walked me down the aisle and got emotional when he handed me over to Henry. Walking up that aisle, I thought I'd feel nothing, but I was wrong. My emotions were surging, leaving me speechless. I couldn't help but silently talk to my mom and dad. Henry held my hand for the last stretch of the aisle. Mom and Dad, did you see? I'm getting married, maybe to someone really great. The officiant was droning on, and I looked into Henry's deep eyes. In my heart, I introduced him secretly to my parents. Mom, the groom is Henry. He really respects me and never interferes with any decisions I make. The officiant asked Henry, do you take Miss Nora as your wife? Henry looked at me intently. I do. Then the officiant turned to me. Do you take Henry as your husband? Mom, I'm marrying a really good guy. Don't worry about me. You don't have to make my favorite foods anymore. He can cook for me. You don't have to remind me not to drink milk. He'll have other options ready. I do. On the wedding night, as we breathed in the scent of wine, his hand ventured under my shirt, and I tried to keep my head clear. I asked him, why me? Just because I can pick vegetables. There it was again, that question. But this time Henry knew what I was getting at. Yet his hands kept moving, smirking playfully. Yep. I bit his shoulder, and he let out a soft chuckle. That time you snatched the contract from Henry's family. You have no idea how captivating you were. Epilogue. Nora was right. I only got close to Mark for the money. But she doesn't know, getting close to Mark was a deal from the start. That's how I make my living. Henry gave me $5 million to flirt with Mark a little. I still remember how the usually decisive Henry struggled to tell me, just test him a bit. Nothing extreme like drugs. Just a simple test. Nothing overboard. I thought it would be something special, but he took the bait easily. So boring. The interesting one was his fiancé. I called and video called her several times, and she ignored it all. Sure enough, when it all came out, she went straight to the heart of things. I never thought about marrying into a rich family. I took Henry's $5 million. And Mark's mom gave me $10 million. That's money I couldn't make in a lifetime being cautious and hardworking. Once I got paid, I planned to take off on vacation. It's good for people to stay clear-headed. The night before I left, Nora suddenly asked to talk. I figured it was business as usual, maybe to settle things with me, cry about her cheating husband, and then forgive him in the end. But nope. She had a surprisingly calm face. She wanted a video of Mark cheating. I sat down, ready to play it cool. Miss Nora, what's this about? I asked. She said she and Mark were truly in love, but she needed to lay low for a bit. Her expression didn't change as she stirred her coffee and took a sip. It reminded me of the disdain she had for the coffee place last time we talked. $1 million, she offered. I hesitated for a second. Miss Nora, $2 million. It's enough. Otherwise, I'm leaving. Deal. I filmed the video right there in that coffee shop and asked her to buy me a plane ticket and ensure my safety. As she got up to leave, I asked, can I at least know how you figured it out? Someone must have texted her. She replied, typing on her phone, you're too cautious. No matter how Mark's mom targeted you, you just watched Mark cry silently. Even when he acknowledged you, you never had the guts to speak up. Cautious? How could I not be? Overacting might mean getting nothing from Mark's mom. After she left, I sipped my lukewarm coffee. It was bitter as hell. I still preferred the coffee from that other place. 3 months later, I returned and dropped by that coffee shop again. Suddenly, someone grabbed my arm from behind. Selena, it's all your fault. All because of you. It was Mark. His suit was all wrinkled, hair unkempt, and his face was puffy. I chuckled. I had kept tabs on them all this time. Mark's family board dumped money into some land, ignoring advice from Mark's father. When construction started, Nora showed up with people, revealing Mark's family had been working for her gain the whole time. Mark's funding was a mess, and instead of staying hidden, he caused a scene at Nora's wedding. If it wasn't for my video clearing things up, people would have mistaken him for the romantic one. Mark's father had so many illegitimate kids, but none could step in this time, as Mark's father got replaced. Looking at the furious Mark, I suddenly recalled how he tried to sneak up on me in the lab and just smiled. Who are you, again?